This is Transit Unplugged, and I'm your host, Paul Comfort. Today, I travel to Atlanta, Georgia, and meet with Jeffrey Parker, the CEO of the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority, or MARTA. He and I had a great afternoon together, and I found out all about his great ambitious plans, along with his board, to add bus rapid transit and light rail to their system. And they're going to be replacing all of their existing rail cars. They're upgrading their track and signaling. They're adding 1,000 bus stops and shelters, and they just won a low-no FTA grant to add electric buses to their fleet. This region is growing fast, and in this interview, Jeff explains how MARTA is growing too to meet the demand for a customer-centric, reliable transit service for the whole region. It's a great interview with an amazing transit CEO, and it's all yours today here on Transit Unplugged.
What does it mean to be a successful public transit agency? What are you doing to lead the way? It's time to learn from the top transit professionals in North America. This is Transit Unplugged with your host, Paul Comfort.
Welcome to Transit Unplugged. I'm your host, Paul Comfort, and today I'm excited to be in Atlanta, meeting with Jeff Parker, the General Manager and CEO of MARTA, the transit system for the Atlanta area. Jeff, thanks for being our guest today and having me into your office.
Thanks, Paul. Good to see you, and glad to be here.
Great. MARTA's made a lot of news over the years as an amazing transit system, and you guys are still in the headlines. Tell us some about the system itself, kind of the nuts and bolts, employees, budget, how you're governed, kind of that stuff.
So we are celebrating our 40th year as a combined rail and bus system this year. That's some exciting news here in Atlanta. So we've been a transit agency for quite some time, and about 40 years ago, when we opened the rail system for the first time, over the next 20 years, we expanded the system, and we have two basically lines that run north-south and east-west. The line that runs north-south also goes to both Doraville and North Springs on the north side and the airport on the south side. The east-west line serves mostly Atlanta and the city of Decatur. So we've got a real significant rail system here in Atlanta. We've got a good-sized bus system, about 700-800 buses, a little over 100 bus routes. We have about $1 billion budget, about half that goes to our operating budget, half that goes to our capital program to maintain the infrastructure and make some amenities. But we also have an exciting expansion program that is above and beyond that.
How do you handle paratransit?
We have a paratransit service that is outsourced through a contractor, and we're actually working on bringing on a second contractor to provide some more service. We've had a significant growth of our paratransit service that we see all over the country.
Yeah, so it's like everyone, right? One of the services that's growing. Yeah, who's your contractor, if you don't mind?
MV is our contractor, and we're bringing in a smaller company, GTS, to augment their service and have a second. We're sort of changing how we deliver the service, still outsourced, but spreading it through a variety of contractors.
Okay. And what's your governance structure here for MARTA?
So MARTA was established by the state to serve a district, and the district includes the city of Atlanta, Fulton, DeKalb, and Clayton counties. Clayton County. Clayton was the last to join when they passed a referendum. And we have a board of directors that I work for. Each of our jurisdictions appoint board members, and they hire a general manager, and then myself as the general manager and CEO run the organization.
And how are you funded?
Through a sales tax. We have a 1 cent sales tax that is collected within the jurisdictions. And that revenue, along with our fare box and other smaller funding sources, supply both the operating and capital costs.
Unionized?
We are. We have a single union, the ATU. Local 732 is our unionized workforce. And here in Metro Atlanta, the same local is the organizing labor union for most of the transit providers throughout the region. So, for example, MV's employees are mostly unionized, and some of the suburban transit agencies are unionized through that same local.
Now, you've been here, your predecessor, Keith, left about a year and a half ago or so, and then you came in?
Yeah, a little bit. I guess he left about 2 years ago. There was Liz O'Neill, who's the longstanding general counsel here at MARTA, was the interim, and I joined about a year and a half ago.
So tell us about how your kind of career journey. People are always interested to see, everybody chooses a different path to get there, but tell us about your journey here.
Yeah, well, it started quite a long time ago in the mid-'80s. I was a student at Northeastern University in Boston, and for those who know Northeastern University, they have a huge cooperative education program, and after my freshman year as a computer science major, I had to go find a job. Went on a bunch of interviews, had several job offers, and the MBTA was one of those as a co-op student, and I applied firm 18-year-old logic and decided that since the MBTA was going to give me a transit pass, there was a very clear decision to make, and that was my
That's what got you into transit, huh?
To transit.
That's great.
So, I was really fortunate, worked for several, just Michael Burns, I know you know well, was the fellow who hired me as a co-op student.
Oh, is that right?
Back in the mid-'80s, and Jack Leary was director of operations.
Sure.
And just a great group of people.
The storied history of MBTA.
And that's what got me interested in more than just the transit pass, and worked there.
What were you doing there?
I was, I did just about a whole lot of stuff on that. I was a budget analyst. I moved up into finance department, ran some of the maintenance facilities, ran the control center. And my last job before moving to Atlanta, I was the director of subway operations, oversaw the heavy rail and light rail systems for the MBTA for a number of years.
Wow.
Moved down here to Nat Ford, convinced me to take a job
that's
here.
That's a good buddy too, yeah.
And I took a job here in Atlanta, moved my family down here. Did that for a number of years, and then decided to go work for Connecticut DOT as the deputy commissioner, and then became commissioner of Connecticut DOT. At the time, the former Governor Rell was really interested in making some significant investments in public transportation. And we actually, at the time I joined the Connecticut DOT, we had a larger transit program than we had a highway program. So we were laying the groundwork for bus rapid transit in New Haven, and were able to get the full funding grant agreement to fund that. We were investing heavily in the Metro North's operated New Haven line, that the parts of which Connecticut DOT owns. We were building bus maintenance facilities. We were building a new rail facility in New Haven to support the rail cars that we were buying with Metro North. So we were doing billions and billions of dollars worth of capital.
And how long were you in that position?
I was there for 3 years.
Okay, yeah.
Governor Rell decided not to run for governor again, and my wife and kids were still living here in Atlanta, and I was traveling back and forth, so I joined HNTB, ran their practice down here, did a lot of work around program management here in Metro Atlanta for Georgia DOT, as well as a lot of work for MARTA and other entities down here, and then decided that it seemed to make sense to get back into public service. And when Keith left, I was able to join MARTA, and here I am. So it's been a great opportunity.
Now, this is a good timing in an interview like this, because you'd worked here before, and you had kind of a vision of what you wanted to do, I'm sure, that you kind of talked to the board about. Now you've been here a year and a half. So can you contrast kind of what your ideas were when you got here, what the reality's been, and how you're getting to accomplish that vision?
Let me just back up just for a second to set a little bit of the stage there.
Great.
And for those who don't know Atlanta, we are just growing incredibly fast. Third fastest growing region in the country. A couple of years ago, we had close to 100,000 net people moved to Metro Atlanta. From when I moved here 14, 15 years ago to today, there's just been this significant change in the perspective of how transit not only supports both Lifeline riders to choice riders, but also is really supporting the economic vitality and development of this quickly growing city and region. And so we're at a point here in Atlanta where we are in a way that we never have before, leveraging the asset of the MARTA's heavy rail system, that a whole lot of really smart people decided to get the political will to build 40 plus years ago. If you were, if we were just a few miles south of here in Midtown, all the development that's happening, and the Midtown Alliance just released a report about ever-growing transit ridership in the past number of years as Midtown Atlanta becomes more and more dense, really a tech-heavy area supported by Georgia Tech and businesses down there. So it's an exciting time to see the community really get behind public transportation and see how it's really supporting and helping to develop the economic vitality of this region. And that's a big piece that drew me here. The city of Atlanta passed a referendum to expand transit here in the city of Atlanta. Clayton County joined the MARTA district a few years before the city of Atlanta, so we've got an opportunity we've already expanded under Keith's leadership, expanded bus service into Clayton County that had gone without bus service for a number of years. And now we're making the plans to expand, improve bus service down there, but also build the first commuter rail system in Metro Atlanta to support that. And the city of Atlanta has a very, very robust and ambitious plan and the dollars to support it for MARTA to deliver an expansion of transit with a mixture of bus rapid transit and light rail and a whole lot of other improvements to public transportation.
It seems this is a very progressive region when it comes to transit, and there's the political willpower to kind of push it through, finance it. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, one thing that happened by the General Assembly 2 years ago created a regional transit planning entity and also gave all of the 13 counties that make up Metro Atlanta the ability to pass a 1 cent up to a 1 cent sales tax for 30 years to invest in public transportation. So here in the MARTA district, we've got a lot of exciting things going on with Fulton County and DeKalb County have completed plans for their transit vision through a transit planning effort that we worked closely with the MPO, which is here in Atlanta called the ARC, the Atlanta Regional Commission, and those counties to develop their vision for transit in the future with the hopes of a future referendum to support that investment like the city of Atlanta has and Clayton County have already accomplished. And, we did have a referendum for Gwinnett County to join the MARTA district. It did not pass. It was an election that was sort of off-cycle, lower voter turnout. I fully expect that the political leadership in Gwinnett County will call that referendum again. And I think, when I move around that county, there seems to be broad support for investment in public transportation. We've just got, a lot of traffic in Metro Atlanta. We've got big investments going on by Georgia DOT to build managed lanes, tolled roads that you can access through a variable price that many regions have around the country.
Northern Virginia's big for that.
Exactly.
Maryland's looking at doing
Maryland's
that.
looking for that. Texas has a lot of it. But we all recognize that investment will help, but we've got to provide significant options both for people to move from the suburbs into the city, but also the investment that the city's making around investing and improving transportation here in the city.
So let's circle back then to when you started the job, kind of like what the vision was. Because I know when I started in Baltimore, I had this idea, and then you have to integrate that with the reality that you find. And so kind of then where are you at now? And kind of
we've done an awful lot in the year and a half that I've been here. And, so several of the things that I focused on and will continue to focus on is, one, we've got to make sure that financially, the financial soundness of the organization is maintained. We've had a number of balanced budgets. I think we're on the 8th year of balanced budgets, and we're well positioned to continue that we haven't had fare increases for 7-8 years as well, but been able to balance the budget. We've got a significant rainy day fund to help us through any sort of economic downturn. We are largely a sales tax-based. The revenue that we need to operate the system is sales tax-based, so any sort of downturn in the economy quickly affects sales tax, and so we've got to be prepared for that. And then the other piece of it is customer experience. I like to say that, while we have to think about the future, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, we also have to think about the here and now and making sure that we're improving not only the customer experience, but also just the reliability of the system. So we've begun to lay out some pretty ambitious programs. The agency has a well-planned that I inherited to replace our rail car fleet. We're continuing to replace our bus fleet and catch up on the procurement of buses.
Are you doing any alternative fuels there?
We were just successful with a Lono grant, and we will deploy 6 electric buses that will serve 2 routes. Happens to be, wasn't my choice, but at Eastlake Station over to North Ave. Eastlake happens to be the rail station I use every day, so 2 of the bus routes there, and we're working to deploy that. So we're going to use that as our leverage point to really put forth a long-term plan at how we can become a greener organization.
What kind of rail cars are you doing? You mentioned that.
We're in the middle of a procurement.
Oh, okay. Right.
We've, we haven't awarded a contract. Our entire rail fleet will be replaced. So,
really?
So the base order is 256 cars.
Wow, that's awesome.
We're getting to the point of negotiating the contract with a vendor, and
are these really the original
excited.
Cars that are being replaced?
Some of them we've bought cars in three waves, but our oldest cars, which are 40 years old, are still here. So we're looking forward to
I relate
to that. Yeah, and a focus on our stations and our bus amenities. We've committed to install 1,000 shelters and benches throughout the region. Something that we've fallen behind on. And we've got the program in place and executing that now. Really something that we're trying to do is improve bus service, make it more reliable. We've reorganized our operations department, brought on a head of bus operations as well as a head of rail operations that reports directly to me. I'm really trying to raise the voice of operations in the organization.
That's good.
On the bus side, we really have not done a substantial effort in changing the way we've delivered bus service in forever.
Right.
Largely the way post-World War II buses ran in Metro Atlanta is largely the same. And so
most major cities in America, as you know, have come to that same conclusion.
Absolutely. Yeah. So by hired a gentleman, Collie Greenwood, who's recently retired after a 30-year career in Toronto at the TTC. Collie's moved down here, and he's going to lead the effort to really improve and redefine what buses are, and not just that local bus that makes stops at all over the place, and leverage bus as a better asset that our region can rely on, whether it's bus rapid transit, arterial rapid transit service, making improvements along these managed lanes that GDOT is building. So it's a really exciting time to improve bus service.
Let's unpack that just a little bit. We got a few minutes here because I think this is an area where, as I look across the country, the 50 major cities, everyone is looking at their bus service. Most of us have on-time performance, which is well below what we're interested in. Might be the 50s, 60s, or 70%. We're all trying to get into above 80%.
Yep.
The 3 things people are doing to see increases. There's 8 cities that saw an increase last year. Seattle and Houston led the way. They are adding frequency, right?
Yep.
They're rerouting the bus networks, and they're reducing friction, is what I like to say. So they're bus-only lanes, transit signal priority, off bus payments. Talk to us about what your vision is and how you. And plus, people are using technology, better technology, putting in people's hands so they can see when the bus is going to get there. Tell us your vision and what you're hoping to accomplish.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we really need to do is to focus on some of the most important corridors that we serve here in Metro Atlanta and in the city, and make sure that those buses can be, one, reliable, predictable, better information about bus arrival time, leverage the technology that the cities and the counties are willing to invest in around signal prioritization and lanes of traffic. We're really starting this effort with the city of Atlanta. We do have one of the early projects that we will deliver for the city of Atlanta in their expansion plan is a Tiger grant that we were successful at a number of years ago. And this is the Summer Hill BRT that we call, and this is the area of the city that's just south of our capital and goes down into the Summer Hill neighborhood. But what the reference point they would make, it is where the Braves used to play.
Okay. Yeah.
Georgia State has taken over that stadium. And there's a vast amount of parking that was empty parking lots that are being developed into housing. Georgia State is taking a bigger presence down there, so it's a significant area of development of the city. And we're working closely with staff at the city as well as the city council members who represent that area to really develop the first of its kind bus rapid transit here in Atlanta. So, it's great that we're able to get a Tiger grant, and we're moving that project along quickly, and that will establish and define what bus rapid transit here is in Metro Atlanta. So
Are you looking at the routes? You mentioned that they were laid out way back in World War II.
We're looking at the routes, simplifying them. We have an effort that we've begun with the City of Atlanta. The City of Atlanta is starting up a Department of Transportation, and as part of that, they're trying to define some metrics and goals around transportation in the city, and that includes transit. So we're in the process of developing some goals that will eventually get to the approval of the mayor and the city council. And in that will be some significant, vision of improvement of bus service and the access of bus.
Okay.
But we're going to do that largely through looking at major intersections that are affecting our bus on-time performance, looking at bus-only exclusive lanes. We've got a lot of buses that travel around 5 points, which is the apex of where the north-south and east-west lines meet, improving circulation around that area. So a lot going on the bus side. On the rail side, we're going to make big improvements to our stations. Okay. Our stations are, range from 40 to 20 years old. We haven't overhauled any of our stations. We have a planned investment over about a 7 to 10 year period to rehabilitate all of our stations, working out the details of that. We've done a significant inventory of their conditions and prioritize those stations. But we're also focusing on beginning that at Airport Station, which is one of our busier stations, and working with the airport to improve that station. Next will be 5 Point Station, which is our busiest because of the connection between the east-west and the north-south line. Working closely with the City of Atlanta to kind of redefine that ever-developing area. We've got 3 major developments going on in that area of the city, and we want to make sure that our station fits in well with the development that's happening down there. We have a goal of really trying to bring on some significant improvements to that station in advance of the World Cup that I think is in 2026.
Okay.
So there's a big effort around that.
So you got a lot happening here.
We got a lot happening. And then an expansion program that's going to bring
let's talk about that.
Light rail down. We have several light rail corridors that we're looking to invest in from Campbellton Road in southwest Atlanta, which is one of our busiest bus corridors. We have a great opportunity to improve connectivity down the Campbellton Road corridor and connect into our heavy rail system and improve ridership down there and accessibility. We see that as a great opportunity to improve access for workers, improve opportunities working with the city around affordable housing as that corridor develops. And then on the other side of the city, we have the Clifton Corridor, which goes from basically here at Lindbergh over to where the CDC and Emory University and Emory Hospital
are.
That's right,
you've got the CDC here to Lindbergh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that area of the city is the second densest employment population. It's not served by a major highway and has, other than local bus service, no real access.
So light rail makes sense.
Huge opportunity to make improvements there. The Beltline, we're working closely with the Atlanta Beltline to help develop transit along the Beltline. We've got a strong vision for light rail transit investment around the Beltline. This is largely an abandoned rail corridor that we've turned into a really a huge public space for the city. The Atlanta Beltline organization is developing this corridor as a bike and pedestrian facility. They've saved a linear corridor so that we can make an investment in transit. And all of this is funded through the half-cent sales tax that back in 2016 the city of Atlanta wisely passed, and we're working hard. So we go back to what have you been doing in the past year and a half?
Yeah.
The focus we've had internally is because the system was started 40 years ago. The last improvement that we made was about 20 years ago when we extended the North Line up to the North Spring Station. We really haven't had an organization to deliver large expansion projects. So we've been working hard to build an organization that can advance these projects, and we've made a lot of improvements to bring on people. I brought a new chief delivery officer who's got an Atlanta native who was delivering the capital program for the airport for a number of years, was working overseas in some projects over there, Frank Rucker. He's really rolling up his sleeves and defining how we're going to deliver these huge transit projects that we have in front of us.
That's great. We had something similar at MTA. It was our executive services to build the Purple Line.
Exactly.
So you have to have an infrastructure team that's focused on these services. We had Chuck Latuca there, who still heads it up.
Yep.
So that's great. So your engineering department, I'm sure, is in high gear as well. It looks
Absolutely.
Like.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of infrastructure to maintain and continue to do that. Some of the exciting challenges that we have, but capital programs are always a challenge. Obviously, the rail and bus investments and the improvements to the stations. But we're laying out our plans to replace our traction power substations.
Okay.
We're finishing up a major signal program that should be finished early 2020. And then we're moving to a continuing a long-term track renovation project. We're just going to be renovating tracks in some of the most difficult places, replacing some of the interlockings that are going to have significant impacts on how we deliver service during that construction. So we're working out those details.
You're focused on state of good repair. So many transit systems are only focused on the new line, and they leave their state of good repair. So I'm glad that's wonderful. You're focused on that asset management.
Absolutely.
Finally, let's talk about the culture of the organization and any changes you're pushing there, or do you have a great culture already when you got here?
Yeah, I think we've got a great culture. The focus of mine is to really become a more customer-centric organization, making sure that all of these improvements that we're making, whether it's big expansion projects or a new fare collection system or better information to our customers, we've got to become a more customer-centric organization. And so part of raising the voice of operations within the organization is a key focus on making sure that we've got both the resources but the cultural attitude of supporting our customers, cleaner stations, better information to our customers. I think that we've had some significant successes. The Super Bowl was here, and it was a huge success for MARTA. We had just huge ridership. The Saturday before the Super Bowl was one of our busiest weekend days in our history, probably only surpassed by some of the days during the Olympics. But we engaged the entire organization. We had hundreds and hundreds of administrative staff who stepped up, supported our operations folks, our police folks. We went through a significant preparation for this, and we did a great job. We've got the Final Four coming up next year. We've got, Atlanta is a real busy sporting place. The soccer has taken hold here in Atlanta.
Okay.
We actually get bigger ridership going to the soccer games than we do getting the football games. They actually, they use the same stadium, Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Oh, yeah.
And we have tremendous ridership for these soccer games.
A lot more games in a year, I imagine.
A lot more games a year.
Yeah.
So we're doing a great job with that, and it's got to be all around a customer-centric attitude.
That's great. I mean, we're in an era now where we are no longer the monopoly providing mobility in a city. You've got to integrate all these. And I guess let's close on that, because that's kind of like the future.
Yeah.
How are you integrating with the TNCs, with potential Hyperloop, any of the new AV technology? What's your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I think what transit, and clearly this applies to Atlanta, but I think this is something that we need to do around the country. And, some folks are moving quickly around this, and we're beginning to. We've got to define better partnerships with all these different providers of microtransit and Uber and Lyft. We've done some partnerships with Uber and Lyft. I was fortunate to be on the APTA mission that looked at MAS over
Yes.
in both Vienna, Hamburg, and Helsinki, Finland. And, one of the big takeaways that I took away from that is that it's not only this sort of technology around mobility as a service, but we also need to look at the placemaking around our stations. So how are we integrating all of these new transit modes around our rail stations like we do our bus system? When you came out of Lindbergh Station and you look for a bus, it's pretty obvious where the buses are, but it's not obvious where the scooter is or where the bike share is. So how can we do things to integrate those systems better? And it just doesn't have to be the systems that we as MARTA own. We've got to see this as a ethos of transportation and transit, and make sure it all fits together for our customers well.
Well, it sounds like you're the right guy to lead it. You have a very good plan. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for being our guest today on the show, and we wish you the best. Hopefully we can get you on one of our live CEO roundtables one time. I think you'd have a lot to add.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thanks again, Jeff Parker, and we wish you a great next 5 years leading this agency and whatever comes beyond that.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Transit Unplugged, powered by Trapeze Group. To stay up to date, subscribe on iTunes or Google Play, or join the conversation at transitunplugged.com. Thanks for listening.